Hello everyone. In our session today, we want to take a look at Active Directory sites and subnets. In our diagram, we have three sites. For the Sandals hotel chain, we have site 1, Sandals, Jamaica. We have site 2, Sandals, Barbados. And site 3, we have Sandals, St. Lucia. Now we're going to try to use our diagram to explain the purpose of creating sites and subnets within an organization. Now let's first describe what a site is. A site is an object that you can create within the Active Directory Sites and Services tools located in Server Manager. When you create the site, you want to give the site a name. For example, you can give the site the name Sandals, Jamaica. Now, the site is a logical object, and the site usually follows your geographical topology. For example, we create a site called Sandals, Jamaica. And in this site, we need to add a number of things. We need to add some domain controllers, and we need to add subnets. A subnet is merely a section of the network. So you have the whole Sandals network, but that network is divided up into sections, and we call these sections subnets. So all the client computers, all the domain controllers, and any other object that will be used for replication would be located in that first site, Sandals, Jamaica. And then we have the same thing for the Barbados site and the same thing for the St. Lucia site. But each site has their own subnet with their own client computers and any other object that is needed for replication. Why do we need replication? Well, when the data is replicated, it means that the data will be transferred to any other domain controller in the network. Let's say that in the Jamaica Sandals Hotel, we change the maintenance supervisor. That change needs to be replicated to the other domain controllers on the network. And any other change that is made within Active Directory is going to be replicated because domain controllers will replicate the data. If a change is made in Barbados, that change needs to be replicated to all the other domain controllers. So it's a matter of speed. The whole purpose of creating the site is so that you, the administrator, will be able to configure the replication speed. In other words, you determine what bandwidth you're going to be using for replication. And you do this with what we call a site link. So you have a site link between the sites. And you may, for example, have made an arrangement with your internet service provider that you want a certain amount of bandwidth on a domain control or for a network, and you're going to use that bandwidth to replicate your data to the other domain controllers. Now, you might have more than one site link. You might have a high-speed site link, and then you might have a backup site link that you want to use if that first site link goes down. And what you are going to be doing is you're going to be configuring which is the preferred link. Which link do you want the data to first replicate on in terms of preference? And that is done by putting the cost, and by cost we don't mean currency. We mean whether or not we want a fast link or we want a slow link. And when we actually configure the site link, you're going to see how the administrator can determine the speed or the cost of that bandwidth, that replication going across to other domain controllers. Using sites allows the administrator to control the behavior of Active Directory replication between domain controllers. We are now going to go into Active Directory sites and services on the tools and create the sites and the subnets. In Server Manager, we're going to click on Tools, Active Directory, Sites and Services. We want to expand sites in the Active Directory Sites and Services console. And we have our first site. By default, we always have a site, a first site, and we're going to rename that site. And we want to call it Corporate HQ. COR. So the name of our first site is Corporate HQ. Remember that Active Directory Sites and Services console comes with a default first site. So all we needed to do was to rename that site to the name that we wanted to give the site. And we gave it Corporate HQ, so we're going to click Enter. Our next task is to create another site. So we want to right click on Sites, click on New Site, and this site we're going to give it the name Farmington. So we're going to use the keyboard to type Farmington. And we want to select the default site link for the site. So we're going to click on Default Site Link and select OK. We have created the Farmington site. So we have two sites now. We have the Corporate HQ that we created, and we have the Farmington site. And we're going to need to create a site link a little later on. For now, after we create the sites, we want to add the subnets. Any subnet that is linked to Farmington, we want to create that subnet and then link it to the Farmington site. So that's what we're going to be doing. In the site, remember, we need to install a domain controller or move an existing domain controller into the site and then create the subnets and link them to the site. We're going to say OK to continue. So we have our two sites, Corporate HQ and Farmington. We want to create a third site. So we're going to right click on Sites again and select New Site. And for this site, we're going to call the site Portsmouth. We're going to use the keyboard to type the name of the site. And we want to select the site link object again and click on OK. So now we have our three sites, corporate HQ, Farmington, and Portsmouth. We're now going to create our subnets. So we want to right click on the subnet object and select new subnet. We want to type the address, the prefix for the subnet, and we're going to type 101010 with a 24-bit for the network part of the address. So that's 10.1.0/24, 24 being the network part of the address. And we want to link that to the Farmington site. So we're going to click on Farmington and select OK. We want to go to the properties of that subnet. So we're going to expand subnet. We're going to right click on the subnet that we created. I'm going to click on properties, and we want to write a description for that subnet. So we're going to click in the description box, and our description for that subnet is going to be Farmington 100 megabit LAN. So we're going to type that with our keyboard. And we want to go ahead and click on OK. We're going to create our second subnet. So we want to right click on subnets again, click on new subnet, and we're going to type the prefix for our second subnet. And we're going to use the prefix address 160.25.0.0/16, which would be the network part of the address. And we want to link that to the corporate HQ site name. So we click on corporate HQ, then select OK. We want to go to the properties of that subnet. So we right click, click on properties, and we want to write a description. So let's click in the description box. And for our description, we want to type corporate HQ. And then we want to select OK to continue. We have a third subnet to create for the Portsmouth site. So we're going to right click on subnet a third time, click on new subnet, and the prefix for our subnet is going to be 176.33.0.0. So we want to click in the box. It's 176.33.0.0, and we're going to use 16 for the network part of the address. And we're going to click on Portsmouth because we want to link that to the Portsmouth site. And we can go ahead and click on OK. We want to go to the properties of that third subnet. So we want to right click and select properties. And we want to write a description for that subnet. The description that we're going to use is Portsmouth 100 megabit switch. $100 MB space LAN. We want to click on OK to close that window. And we want to click on subnets and look at the subnets and the sites that we have created. We created 3 sites: Farmington, Corporate HQ, and Portsmouth. In the Farmington site, we created the subnet 10.10.1.0.24, and we connected that to the Farmington site. The subnet 162500, and we connected that to Corporate HQ. And the subnet 1763300, and we connected that to the Portsmouth site. To recap, we looked at sites and we noted that the reason for creating the sites was to help with the replication, the domain replication from one domain controller to the other domain controller. The administrator is able to regulate or control that replication using the site links. We're going to take a look at site links in another session, but for this session, we just wanted to be clear on the purpose of the creation of the site, and also to note that we have to create the sites, and we have to create the subnets, and we have to link them together. Using the sites, we will be able to control the behavior of Active Directory replication between the domain controllers. This is the end of our session, and I want to thank you for listening.